agenda. Oh, thank you, George. We definitely need to record this so we can share it with ADA Hood and Suzanne Goddard and Walisha Wilson, who are not here, but they're all part of the program. So, Pastor Flakes, how are you?
Hi, Sister Elamine. How you doing? I'm trying to close out another conversation, so I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, I sent out basically the proposal for how things would get conducted on Saturday. Now, what I discovered, because I had a crazy arrest situation in February of 2013, where the police tricked themselves into my place, put me in handcuffs in my own apartment, and charged me with 2 misdemeanors. It was really crazy. It was a health-related issue. So they charged me with calling 911 too much. And I didn't realize they could do that, but it's apparently some kind of thing. You can't call 911 too much. But it was, and then when the ambulance came and took me to the hospital, I was in the hospital waiting so long, I got tired of waiting and I took a cab home. And then they charged me with escape. And so, lucky for me, Suzanne Goddard was the solicitor when I went to court in April of 2013. So she came over to me and everybody was just looking in the courtroom. She was like, Miss Elamine, what are you doing here? I read your letters to the editor all the time. And when I explained to her what happened, she said, don't worry about it. I'm dropping the charges. I said, well, what about my $750 that I spent to bail myself out? She said, you'll get that back. So I got it back except for the $40. So I was shocked because I thought once the charges was dismissed, it was all over. But what I learned when I went to the police department yesterday is no, you have to get it expunged. So Paige, I'm gonna be one of your clients tomorrow. So I have all of my records from the Columbus Police Department. I'm saying all of that to say what was really important about that very pleasant visit with CPD was they gave me the form that explains if you were arrested before July 1 of 2013 by the Columbus police, you can get your records from the police department. But if you were arrested after that, you have to go directly to the appropriate court. So for misdemeanors, you have to go to the state solicitor's office. For felonies, you have to go to the DA's office. And this may just be a quirky thing for Columbus.
Yeah, that is not right. I'm happy you're able to get your GCIC report. So any arresting agency, no matter when the arrest occurred, can issue a state criminal history report. And sorry, just real quick, I'm getting a message from Dominique that she's in the waiting room. I think Nicholas Hudd is as well. He's able to make it from the DA's office.
George, please pay attention so you can let people in.
Let me know if that's not right, because I know they're, oh, I see my name is joining. So they must have gotten my link. I resent them. Okay, there we go.
So that's, oh, Paige Jan. We have 2 Paige Jans.
We have 3 now. We got 3.
Oh, okay. So ADA Hood, H-U-D. You pronounce it Hood?
Yeah, HUD, H-U-D, 1D.
Oh, okay, HUD. Okay, well, ADA HUD, I went to the police department yesterday because I'm going to be a client on Saturday because
Yes,
I
ma'am.
got arrested due to some strange behavior on the Columbus Police Department's part in 2013. And Suzanne Goddard was the solicitor, and she dismissed the charges. And I thought that was the end of it. And when I went to check my records at the police department, they gave me my records. So I'm going to get my records expunged tomorrow. I mean, on Saturday. But the important thing, ADA HUD, is that they gave me a paper saying, if you were arrested before July 1, 2013, you can get your records from the police department or whatever agency arrested you. But after July 1, they would have to come to your office for felonies or go to Suzanne Goddard's office for misdemeanors. Did you know?
I am aware of that law. Now, I will say that's with regards to the papers that individuals are putting in that aren't going in front of a judge, that are just coming to me or the Honorable Miss Goddard, and then we sign whether we're denying or consenting to that and then mailing that to GCIC. The reason that I'm so adamant about y'all filing motions with the court and why I'm so happy that this program is here is because if a motion's filed with the court and a judge agrees with it, then not only does it come off someone's GCIC, which is in pop culture referred to as the rap sheet, it also is sealed in the clerk's local records. And I've had people who have come to me and they're like, you signed this paper, why is it still showing up? And after some digging, it turns out that sometimes an employer will pay an investigator or a background check company to look into someone, and they'll go and they'll call local clerk's offices, and one of those local clerk's offices, because they haven't got that judicial order yet, will tell people about it. So that's why, although it's a good process in terms of low energy for somebody to come to the DA's office to fill out a form or come to the police department or Solicitor General's office to fill out a form. But I appreciate that we have a program here that'll deal with these record issues more completely.
Yeah. And I think I hear kind of where kind of the disconnect is. So Teresa, when you have a dismissal that the arrest occurred before 2013, then there is a process to request restriction for that non-conviction, and that's through the application. But if it's an arrest after 2013, then there is a separate process, but that doesn't pertain to how to get your criminal history report, right? That date matters for how to seek the relief, not just getting the record.
Paige, you're wrong. Yeah. So the document that I got from the police department is very clear.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take a look at it.
Before July 1 of 2013, and I was lucky because my arrest was in February of 2013. So all I had to do was pay the $20, and they gave me my records on the spot within 5 minutes. So therefore, I can bring them to the expungement event. But if somebody came up there and they were arrested after July 1 of 2015, which I think is probably going to be a bunch of younger folks who will be showing up, who may have that situation. So my concern is that there are going to be very few people on Saturday who show up wanting their records expunged, who will be able to get it because they won't have the records. What I'm going to do is go over to the radio station and provide them with this information so they can start reading it on the air so that people understand that they have to get their records before they show up on Saturday. Is that my understanding from you? Is that we need the records on Saturday?
Yes, absolutely. We have information and can give resources to folks, but we can only give legal advice if we are looking at their criminal history report, their official record. I would really like to take a look at the materials that you received from the arresting agency, if you're okay with that, because my fear would be communicating a message through radio that isn't, it might have been what that arresting agency said, but that is not correct. Any arresting agency can and should issue a criminal history report no matter when the arrest occurred. And I really want to look at that material with you just so we're sharing that information as accurately as possible with the folks that we could be serving.
Well, let's hear from the ADA because he understands that there's some kind of law in Muskogee County that set this up. So explain, ADA, why it's this way in Muskogee County.
So there are a few things that I'd like to clear up. First, the DA's office does not provide criminal records to anyone. If someone comes to our office and asks for a criminal record, we will point them to the police department. We do not provide people's records. We run them for our internal use. So that's the first issue. The second issue is the date in 2013 is for giving a form either to the police department, the DA's office, or the Solicitor General's office, and not putting that form in front of a judge. It's an administrative procedure that is separate from the judicial procedure of filing a motion with a court. And filling out that form only deals with part of the issue. It only deals with the criminal record. It does not deal with the clerk's local record.
Right. And it is only for non-convictions. Isn't that right, Mr. Hood? That restriction application is for non-convictions.
I believe they allow us to file some on successfully completed first offender and conditional discharge, but it's a very narrow form.
Yeah.
And anything that's in the law that has any judicial discretion is an automatic rejection. So if somebody fills out one of those forms, I, by law or by agency procedure, am not able to grant it. But if someone gives a motion to the court, there are a lot more remedies that could be considered. So I would greatly be asking people to file motions with the courts so that they have access to those extended remedies.
Well, Paige, what I will do is after our meeting today, I'm having lots of tech problems at my place. So maybe I can go over to 4th Street and get them to scan the 2 pages. Because what it is it was stapled together. It was all the information explaining what you have to pay and blah, 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 and how your stuff needs to be mailed off, and it will be mailed back to you through the U.S. Postal Service and so on and so on. And then there's a page attached to it which says request to restrict arrest record prior to 7/1/2013, and it gives the little Georgia law that applies here, and then it's a form, a simple form similar to the one I filled out yesterday, that allows the person to fill out the form to get it.
So if I may, on the bottom of that form that you fill out, does it say page 1 of 3?
It does.
Yes, so that's the form I'm talking about. That's only for a narrow group of things, and that doesn't deal with what's in the local clerk's records. It's only for the rap sheet, and it's only for a narrow group of remedies. So it doesn't provide as many ways for a person to get relief, and it does not provide as much relief as filing a motion with the court.
Okay, well, Paige, I think I get it now. Because the form I filled out was a different form. And when I filled it out, he checked personal or you. It's a you there, and he checked personal. And so then he gave me this, but it didn't apply to me. So I did fill it out, and I stood there for 5 minutes, and they gave me all of my records. I was so disgusted with the mugshot thing because I didn't have on any makeup when they came to my house that morning. But I got all the stuff, so you can see how ugly I was looking when I got arrested in February of 2013. But I understand now, ADA HUD and Paige, that this document that he gave me, because he did say there are two different things. And when I explained to him what I needed the record for, he said, well, fill out this form and it'll take 5 minutes. So I understand that. I don't want to give out this information to the radio station.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would be a mistake to do that now that you've explained to me. But I will bring this stuff, since I made 30 copies of it, because part of what needs to happen on Saturday, Paige and Pastor Flakes, this is what I envision at the start at 11 a.m., that you will welcome everyone.
Hey, Sister Alameen, before you go into that before you go into your agenda, I want to ask ADA HUD. I'm going to ask, is that right?
Yes, ADA HUD.
Yeah, ADA HUD. You just exposed a problem within our process in terms of processing persons coming in. And I want to just get the legal minds to weigh in on this. And that is it any way possible that you all can put in some type of a ordinance or procedure indicating that when women come into detainment, that they will have makeup that they can put on before they take their mug shots? I just want to ask you. I'm just messing with you. That's from Miss Alameen. That's all. I think that's a major issue that Miss Alameen said they didn't have no makeup, and you shouldn't have a mug shot taken without a makeup. So I just didn't want that to get passed by, Miss Alameen. I heard you. I want to see if these legal minds we got here. All right.
I am only aware of one case involving makeup. Don't think it'd be particularly applicable to this case.
Well,
all right, Sister Alameen, I'll hear the agenda.
Well,
Let's go.
I'm glad you got a little fun out of this today, Pastor Flakes.
I just want to know. I wanted you to know I was listening. Okay.
You'll know why I desperately want to pick up. And the police officers were like, "You look fine. Come on. You should see some of the other people we bring in here." But at any rate, I'm glad we cleared up the legal stuff. So I won't.
I believe.
Sorry, my phone keeps, it may be these people calling, because I was shocked when that person called me at 6:30 this morning talking about how does it work about getting their records expunged. So I think what's going to happen, Paige, is a bunch of people are going to show up with no records. So it's going to be important, the kind of agenda that I was putting forth, Pastor Flakes, is that you would do the welcome to 4th Street. And
oh, it went back to mute for a second.
Got mute again.
I'm sorry, the phone keeps ringing. That's why it mutes me. But I will explain, Pastor Flakes, after you welcome to 4th Street and introduce me as the moderator of the panel for ending mass incarceration, which is sponsored by the Fannie Lou Hamer branch of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And because the meeting is being recorded, and they gave us a $2,500 grant to do the program on Saturday, that has to be in the video when I speak. And so because we're paying for the luncheon and we're paying for the recording and the videotape, and all of that is paid for by the national organization that our Fannie Lou Hamer branch is a part of. So I need to say that in the beginning as I do a kind of second welcome. And then I have said to everybody, Paige, that you're the supervising attorney over the expungement event. Now you'll have about 20 minutes to explain what can happen and what can't happen. And then you can engage ADA HUD and solicitor Suzanne Goddard. So the three of you will kick us off because there'll be a bunch of people there who will probably just take their little lunch and go home after they hear that they can't get their records expunged. So by the way, Pastor Flakes, I talked to Ms. Moore, so we have a great menu lined up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to-go boxes in terms of people's food. So I will go to Sam's Club and get a bunch of to-go boxes. So when the food is served, everybody will be served in a to-go box because lots of people in the neighborhoods who are coming to get food probably won't stay for the whole program. So that's the logistic that I think, because Elijah put out the flyers all around the neighborhood, and I'm sure everybody just read free lunch.
So let me ask you this logistically. I know the last time we had this talk, you wanted to do your luncheon from 11 to 11:45. So we were preparing to have people sit down and so forth and so on. So since we've shifted, so do you want to have the panel first, and then as people are leaving, they carry their lunch? I mean, I just want to know exactly how that's, tell me how that's going to work.
Well, I think what we want to do is let Paige, ADA HUD, and Susanna Goddard do a 20-minute thing. And then we will serve lunch and people can kind of fellowship for a few minutes. And then we'll do the EMI panel. And those of us who have our records with us, we will start the private whatever meetings with the attorneys. Because we really do want to try to finish up everything by 2 p.m. So the video, Kareem, which is the question we need to answer today, Pastor Flakes, we have a Zoom event that Kareem is also doing that morning. And rather than trying to rush over to be at the church at 11, we would like to come to the church in the morning before 9 o'clock and do the Zoom event, which is going to involve people from all over the country. And we'll be using George's Zoom account for that event. And that event goes from 9 a.m. until 10:30. There are some people who are coming in from Atlanta, and I just told them to come straight to the church because I felt the church had the tech capabilities to allow us to do a Zoom with Kareem. This is the time for you to explain what you need for that to happen.
So if I could real quick, I'm getting called back to court. So can I show up at the church at 10:30 or should I be there earlier?
Oh no, 10:30 is fine because the event starts at 11.
All right, so I'll be there at 10:30. I'll look forward to speaking with the rest of you in person and meeting y'all in person. And if somebody can get the word out that it would be appreciated if people could bring their criminal histories and that it'll help us move the process along, that would be great. Unfortunately, I have a court obligation I have to go to.
Yeah, well, that's the one message I will give to the radio station. I won't bother them with all this other mumbo jumbo from the 1 page of a 3-page document. So I will get a little message to them to tell people to bring their records.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ADA. Thank you.
Have a good
Uh,
afternoon and evening.
Okay. And I hope everybody understands that this is just the first of what will probably be a series of these kind of expungement events, because the need is so great in Columbus. I know at least 25 people who have felonies, who want to get their records expunged. So part of what you will be doing, Paige, in the beginning is saying what's eligible and what's not. Because I know the DUI stuff is not, right?
DUI conviction, that's right. Yeah, no, I'm happy to do kind of like a big picture just to help set expectations for everyone in attendance.
Well, that
And
will
then-
be happening in the 11 to 11:30 period.
Okay.
And so at 11:30, we'll probably start serving lunch. And once everybody gets their lunch, especially the speakers, I can never eat before I speak. So I'm going to ask Ms. Moore to put my little to-go box aside. And so, but the speakers on the panel are going to be Walisha Wilson, who will be talking about the Ending Mass Incarceration Multi-Faith Initiative, which is going to be taking place in a big conference in Atlanta, January 11th through 13th. And we want to make sure that Pastor Flakes talks about the work that 4th Street and possibly the IMA is doing around these issues of reentry and ending mass incarceration from a local perspective. And then we're going to have Nicole, who should have been here for this meeting, but she and I are talking back and forth. She's going to explain what her role is as a statewide coordinator, and why I think there were a couple of meetings today, a national meeting and then a noon meeting. So she seems to be running pretty strong, but she and I are talking about how what she does statewide connects with what we're trying to do in Columbus. And so, you know, for months, we've been having these meetings. And quite frankly, Pastor Adrian Chester dropped the ball because this was supposed to be an IMA event that we talked about happening in August 1st and then in October. So now it's really happening in December. And so it's being sponsored by the Southern Anti-Racism Network and the Fannie Lou Hamer branch. That's who's sponsoring this event. And the gracious host of the event is 4th Street Baptist Church. So that is the reality of what's going on. It looked like Monica was trying to raise her hand. So Monica, did you have something you wanted to say? Well, somebody with the baby crying needs to mute yourself.
That's Tracy who raised his hand.
Oh, okay. Well, Tracy, can you unmute yourself, or do you have too much noise where you are?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Good.
Okay, Tracy.
Good afternoon. I had just a brief question for Attorney Jan. I did these workshops, several of these over the years at Ebenezer Baptist Church when I was with the Urban League there. Had a question about, because it was always my understanding that the felony convictions, very few of those are expungible. Are those, is it a low, I know it's a low bar, is it a low bar as far as felony convictions? I just want to be able to, so we can communicate clear.
Right, to folks, absolutely. So thankfully, there was an expansion in the law that included a felony provision. So it is still a little bit limited, but if folks have received a general pardon from the State Board of Pardon and Parole, then if it's an eligible offense, which we will screen for, then that felony conviction, that pardon conviction, can be restricted and sealed. So there is a new pathway for felony convictions.
Okay.
There is also one other remedy that we always screen for too. So there are options.
Okay, because I have a few people that I recommended to come to this, but I wanted to make sure that I'm giving them the right information, because I know 3 individuals were, I mean, they were like, their convictions were not pardoned. They has not been pardoned, but they were like bad check charges, you know, over $500 of, you know,
Yeah.
not major fraud, but, you know, bad, you know, they were like bad checks, you know, things like that. And they actually did time for that, did a couple of years for that. So I wanted to find out, what was that? Does that fit within the parameters or not?
Yeah. So if someone has, and of course, is, you know, speaking in a vacuum here a little bit, but if they have not received a general pardon yet, and there was maybe more than one felony conviction on their record, the typical
Yes.
recommendation is to apply for a general pardon. So
Okay.
that is something that wouldn't necessarily go through this event because it needs to
Gotcha.
go through the board. But I
Okay.
would still encourage, as long as that expectation is clear, I would encourage that person still to come to the event, because we're
Okay.
going to be there. We're going to talk with people about what does the pardon process look like. We've got resources. We can provide kind of tips about how to navigate that process. So there is still
Perfect.
some benefit to attending.
So the track would be go through the pardon application. Would you go through who for that, for the pardon application? I know we're getting outside the scope of this, but
Yeah. So you mean like who does it get turned into?
yeah.
Okay. The pardon application actually gets turned directly into the State Board of Pardon and Parole.
Okay.
They
Okay.
have an application that's online. We will bring a bunch of copies of it. But it's an application that just gets, in addition to some supporting documents, but it gets turned directly into the board. And they investigate it. The board, the panel actually votes on it, and then a decision is issued. So it's the only remedy actually that's outside of the normal court process.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's great.
Yeah, of
Well,
course.
Tracy, so you're gonna be there on Saturday as well, right?
No, I will not. I'm out of town. This is the first weekend that I have not been canvassing in 8 weeks. So I am not in town this weekend. I leave Friday morning.
Oh, okay, good. Well, the important thing that I think people should know is that the legal services of the Georgia Justice Project will be made available. And what Pastor Flakes agreed to do is set up rooms so that people will have the advantage of the attorney-client privilege, so that they will be able to talk. Pastor Flakes, make sure I'm saying this right.
Yes, ma'am. I was told that you need about 3 rooms for privacy for 3 attorneys. I mean, if there's more, then we'll designate. But I think there was 3 the last time we met.
Yeah, that we will not need more than that. That is sufficient. Yeah.
Great. If I can ask for clarification, Ms. Elamine, because we just want to make sure we're accommodating when your expectations. I want to go back to the welcoming. Hate to take us back there. You're going to start off with the welcoming. That's going to be at 11 o'clock, and then the introductions, and then you're going to have the panel. Is that right? Or will the panel come after that?
No, you're gonna do a rather quick welcome to 4th Street Missionary Baptist Church. We're glad to be hosting this event. And Teresa Elamine, who's the organizer of the event, will introduce our first group of speakers. And that's when I introduce Paige.
Okay. So you got welcome, you got introduction, you got speakers.
Right. And we'll talk about 20 minutes about record clearing with and the solicitor and DA. Yeah.
And then you're gonna have what that comes after. Once the speakers are finished, then what?
Well, once Page as the first set of speakers, just to clear up any expectations that people may have for getting their records expunged, because she will say very clearly, if you do not have your records here today, blah, blah, blah. And so once that's cleared up, then it's time for lunch, because a number of the folks I expect who are there, when they learn they're in no position to get their records expunged, they would have all signed in, and they will all have the flyer so that they can contact me later.
Okay.
But we go into lunch around 11:30ish.
So you're going to have welcome, you're going to have you as the introduction, then you're going to introduce the speakers, and then you're going to be at lunch at that time. And your lunch is those lunches will be boxed.
Well, we expect people to sit and eat. We're just making it convenient for some people who may eat and run or take their box lunch and run, because we do have a panel discussion that needs to take place for about 45 minutes before the actual expungement services happen. So you're on that panel, Pastor Flakes, talking about the reentry work that 4th Street has been done. See, all of this is being recorded, and it's going to be shown on YouTube on a number of channels. But we also have media coverage. So I will be reaching out to the media to cover the event.
I'm just trying to get a framework in terms of how this is going to run, so we'll know, because there's one important question I need to ask. So I have welcome, I have introduction of you as the organizer, then you're going to introduce the speakers, then we have the lunch that will run till about 11:30. We will have the lunch, whether they sit or leave, and then we have the panel discussion, and then we'll have the expungement activity. Is that the way it's going to run?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's it. The key thing is that people will still be eating while we put the panel in place that will include you, me, Walisha, Nicole, and Paige.
Okay. So we'll have a table ready, and we've got one half of the room that will be set up for the luncheon, have another half that will be actually for the welcome and the panel discussion. So we'll start off first with the welcome. So I got that. So here's the question that I have to ask. You said there is a Zoom that you're going to be participating in, and instead of you being at the original location, you want to do it at 4th Street.
Exactly. That is a big question we need to answer today.
Yeah, that's the question. Because I wanted to make sure that I have to get in touch. There's some moving parts. I am tech savvy, but not that tech savvy. Okay. So there are some people that are much more tech savvy than I am, but I have to call those people. I have to give them a real advance notice because they have other things they're doing. So my question is, what do you all need in order to make that happen? I've got Georgia here, and so I was wanting to make sure that we're all on the same page when you say that you're going to use Georgia account for the Zoom.
No. Hold on. We're using George. Hold on, Kareem. We're using George Friday.
George, okay, Friday. Okay, that because Georgia is, she's our administrator. So when you say Georgia, I said Georgia. Come on, let's go. Okay, so George is going to use her account.
Yeah, and so Kareem has done this with us before last year.
Okay.
So Kareem is a tech expert for how this is going to happen. So Kareem, if you could tell Pastor Flakes what you need for this to happen, on site at 4th Street.
Okay. Reverend Flakes, the only major thing that I guess my concern is for 4th Street is making sure that the internet is adequate. The Wi-Fi is capable of maintaining that process for me, as well as during the panel discussion. Are we using microphones so we can get clear audio to the live stream? And if so, how can I tap into tap into the house sound so I can be able to provide the audio that the mics are picking up? When it comes to
Hold on, Kareem, we're talking about two different things now. The meeting that's from 9 a.m. to 10:30 before we're at the church event, that is a Zoom event. Now, what we need is a screen, if possible, because those of us who will be in the room where the Zoom is taking place, we will need to be on camera.
well, regarding that we can let me get the logistics mentally figured out first to see the junction of in-house as well as being able to communicate to those that's on Zoom, because my original thought and plans was everything being separate, then we come together at 11 o'clock. So I know we just talked about this morning, so I didn't really get a chance to get the logistics.
Kareem, they are two separate events. See, it's described on the flyer, 9 a.m. to 10:30. Patrick O'Neill and Vicki Elson with Rebecca Irby. There's a totally separate registration link for that. The topic is totally divorced from this. And at 10:30, we're done with Zoom. There is no more Zoom after 10:30.
Got it. Okay, so 11, when we do it at the church, we're recording then posting after. Is that correct?
You're live streaming the 4th Street event to the Southern Anti-Racism Network and the other groups on Facebook.
Okay, so are we live streaming the Zoom event on those accounts as well?
Well, I thought you were gonna get up with Ellen about making you an admin on the Wilk account. But if she didn't do that, yes, we would live stream the morning event to the SARN accounts where you're already an admin.
Can I ask just a couple of logistic questions? I do have to run at 3. I know we're kind of in the thick of a few things, but I'd love to get some more clarity on them. Is that all right?
We do a 1-hour meeting, so everything is done at 3. We got about 12 minutes.
Make it work. Okay.
So I just want to get this straight with Kareem, because I know he hasn't been feeling his greatest since he's been in the emergency rooms and stuff. But I want to make sure that Pastor Flakes understands what you need, Kareem, in order for us to do both events inside of the church.
I don't see him on the meeting anymore. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't know if maybe he fell off the meeting.
Well, maybe we'll come back to Kareem at some point in the next day or so, Pastor Flakes. Paige, Kareem, what happened?
Yes, I'm totally not sure what happened. My thought process was, yeah, I will double check with her just to make sure. So that's not a difficult process on making sure I'm an admin to those pages. I just wanted to make sure that I knew what pages I was live streaming to, as well as if I was going to continue that particular live stream from Zoom to 4th Street, because my plan was to just go to 4th Street, and if everything was conducive, was just to be there and do the live streaming for Zoom to Facebook and the other, you know what I'm saying, other pages, and just continue the same and continue that same process onto 4th Street into the other pages as well.
Well, the key thing is that we're all showing up at 4th Street. So we need the doors open for us before 9 o'clock, around 8:30ish, because Walisha will probably be there, as well as some people coming in from Atlanta who are going to be there for the whole afternoon. So that's something, Kareem, that we can sort out with Georgia and Pastor Flakes about the logistics of the tech issues, because that's the one thing I'm worried about. I can bring my laptop and be in some room and be on Zoom if the internet access is available, but I would like for us all to be in the same room who are involved with the morning meeting on the same screen if we can, because it would just be better in terms of presentation. But we'll sort it out tomorrow, okay, Kareem?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Let me
so
say this. If I can just say this, Ms. Elamine, access is not going to be a problem in terms of our receptivity. So that's not going to be a problem. What I need to know, and if Kareem can come down, is put him together with some people who can help. And I'm hearing you want to be, whatever the Zoom is, you want to project it on a screen. So we just need to know exactly how that connectivity is going to take place and where. So if he's available to come down and look at the actual facility that we're going to be all in, where we're going to be located, then I think that will help before Saturday morning. I don't want it to be Saturday morning, we're already running around. So I just like to have things, ahead of time, so everything will be a turnkey operation and everything will run smoothly. So if that's possible that he can come down, then look at the facility and look at what we have, then I think that will put everybody at ease.
well,
Yeah,
definitely.
yes, sir. I'm actually I don't know what today looks like. I'm actually going to the AKA house later on today. That's right up the street from you. So, and that's around 4:30. So I might be there for about an hour, give or take. But if that doesn't work, I mean, I'm pretty open outside of. I have a luncheon to go to, the high school awards luncheon for Sports Visions tomorrow.
I'll see you there for a while, for a minute or two. I have that same
okay.
lunch.
Well, great. After that, I won't be available until about 3:30. So we can definitely meet today or tomorrow evening.
I would prefer today as best. I'll be here pretty much in the office all day. So at least if I'm here, I'll know and I can communicate that to our tech person if we need to bring that person in. So, but if not, then we can work it out.
Yes, sir. I will send my number in the chat if we don't have it, or if you don't have it, and if we can exchange that so I can keep you informed, I'll definitely do that.
Kareem, I'll give
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll give you the number to the church so you can call the church, because I'm gonna have time to be calling you. So I'll give you the number to the church, and I'm sure Georgia will be expecting to hear. So we have to move on because we do try to have a hard stop within the hour. So Paige, let's get your questions answered.
Thank you. Yeah. So one is, and you were already kind of talking about Wi-Fi. I want to make sure that we will have access to Wi-Fi because we will need to look up records online to be able to look at to assess people's options. So will we have access to Wi-Fi at the church?
Yes. Georgia will be here. She
Great.
knows Wi-Fi, so and we'll have you in rooms. Yes.
Okay, great. The other thing, we'll use all those rooms for consults, and that will be great. We also, though, will be bringing a bunch of resources and materials for folks that might not have the record, but want to just, gather information. Will you all have a table that we can set up our materials on?
We
Or do
can.
we-
We
Okay.
can. We have a table.
Perfect. And usually just one, that should be just fine.
Because I have some material where I'll be invited.
Oh, you went on mute again.
Freedom, but I probably should start answering some of these phone calls because they may be about the expungement event. So I look forward to seeing you all Saturday.
Teresa,
So
can
Paige,
I ask you one question? Sorry, one more question before you jump off. Is there anything that you want us to talk about on the panel? Because I know we're going to talk about record clearing as an intro. What would you like me to add to the panel discussion?
well, we're asking panelists to speak for about 7 minutes each. And so I think that based on what's going on, like these rules, I think it's going to be important to just probably do some repetition on what you've said earlier, so that people in the room like me who are going to be meeting with you one-on-one will understand what to expect, because it doesn't sound like we're going to have a judge or somebody on the spot that's just going to be right away saying your records are cleared. You'll never be showing up in the system except if you apply for a law enforcement job. See, one of the things I learned from the police department basically is that your records are never really totally cleared, because certain agencies will still have access to your records.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, law enforcement always available for law enforcement. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think you'll be thoroughly prepared to give the information that's needed, because we'll have a little Q&A afterwards, after the panelists speak. And then all of us who are needing our records expunged, who have our records, will start the attorney-client meetings, and everybody else can finish eating any leftover food and fellowship or whatever. But
Okay.
all of the people who aren't getting their records expunged, at some point, Pastor, you have to let everybody know, thank you for coming. It's 2:00. It's all over. See ya. And so that's what has to happen at some point. But I think I've seen you be very fast on your feet, Pastor Flakes. So, we'll have the food blessed and everything before we start chowing down. And all of that is going to be in your wheelhouse, Pastor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So anything else, Paige?
The last thing I have is, I know you mentioned news media potentially being there. We have let our communications team know, and they might be able to come with us. Is there a confirmed interview for that Saturday? Like, will there be a reporter there?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
But I have contacts at WRBL and WTVM, so I will try to work them tomorrow to see if they will cover. The one thing about news coverage in Columbus is very hard to get it on a Saturday, because they do believe in taking their weekends off for the most part. But we'll see, because with this kind of event, there may be a lot of interest in the fact that it's on the airways in the way it is. There may be some interest at WRBL or WTBM. Those are the stations where I have contacts.
Okay. If any of that becomes confirmed, would you let me know?
Oh, yeah, well, I think it's going to be probably if they show up on Saturday.
Okay.
Because they have a tendency to say we got it on the calendar, but whether or
Yeah.
not they actually show up depends on if somebody got murdered somewhere or whatever. And this would not be a priority if they had some bigger news story. So it's just kind of just be prepared for the media, because I know they would want to interview you, because you're the expungement expert, and so you'll be the interview person. I don't need to be interviewed, but I think you would be. I will be steering people towards you, because the Georgia Justice Project is providing an amazing service, and we need to let people know that.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to talk to anyone on Saturday. So refer to me, refer on. The last question I have, and this might be a question for George, but I know we were tracking registration through that Google sign-up sheet. Do we have an idea of how many folks have registered?
Right now, it's 7.
Okay.
George, could you just say the names of the people who have registered? Because some of them are possibly us, but if there are people who have found the event somehow and registered, this is going to be a real word of mouth thing page, because the people I know coming from Safe Harbor and from the military library and other places, they're coming based on word of mouth. So George.
Okay. The names I have for y'all's event is Curtis Jenkins, Natalie Cunningham, Stephanie Rodriguez, Kenya Borders, Teresa Pounds, Teresa Elamine, and Walisha Williams. Of those 7 that require expungement services, not all of them have given yes. The form I have gives what percentage have given yes, and that's 57.1. So of the 7, more than 6, or around 6. So I'd say everybody, but maybe Walisha, because Teresa does. I don't know. It doesn't. I have to look at the individual sheets to know. I'm just looking at the summary at this point.
Well, based on the names that you mentioned, it sounds like there are people who might need expungement services, and there may be a disappointment if they don't have their records with them, because I don't recognize any of those people. So they're not a part of the inner circle here. They're people who've heard about the event, possibly from the military library or someplace like that. So it's good to know, because I think Walisha wanted to get her records looked at, and I know I want mine. So I think we can probably safely say to plan on 5 to 6 people who actually have their records.
Miss Alameen, I know the 2 persons who actually lead our reentry program. One is used to be supervisor of parole, probation, and another one used to be a correction officer. So, and so they have put it out through the probation and parole, and probation officers are directing that. It's good to know that the information. I will get back in touch with them and make sure that they get the information that they need to have. That we did say they have to have the paperwork. We just didn't say what time. You know, we just said have your paperwork so that it can be looked at. So I'll just reinforce that with them to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah, that they need to have their records. And if you go to the police department, they will give you your records. You pay the $20 and you can get your records.
Yeah, we told them that.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So this is like the beginning. You know, I see how great the need is, Paige. So we'll probably do this again in a few months.
All right. Thank you
I
all.
gotta jump off, so sorry. Bye.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Paige. Appreciate you all.
Thank you. See you Saturday.
All right.
Thank
I'll
you,
look to,
and I'll be in touch.
Kareem, I'll look to hear from you.
Yes, sir.
You'll talk with Georgia.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Ms.
Uh-huh.
Alameen.
Thank